Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. This is where we explore cutting edge methods to enhance our health and well-being. I'm your host, Brittany Ford, and I am so thankful that you are joining me today. This episode was really interesting. I had the honor of having Dr. Ashley Dwyer on. She's a pharmacist, certified health coach, former athlete, and we talked a lot about metabolic restoration, individualized fitness plans, and even macros and what that can look like and what the ideal distribution of macronutrients are. This one was really cool. She has a really interesting background and she helps women kind of in a very similar age range to my audience, 25 to 45-ish. And she talks a lot about overcoming metabolic adaptation, things like PCOS, hyperthyroid, menopause. So we definitely get into a lot in this episode. I think there are so many misconceptions that we have about metabolism. Can we even speed up metabolism? Is that legit? Is that real? Getting her intake and her 2 cents on that was really fascinating. So this is for all the girlies out there who struggle with metabolism, struggle with holistic nutrition and understanding macronutrients, what we should eat, what we shouldn't eat. There's definitely some golden nuggets in this that I think you are going to love and take away from it. Before we jump in, a shout out to Biooptimizers. I always talk about them, but they create this product. It's called Mushroom Breakthrough. And essentially, this is a bunch of mushrooms that you add to milk or water. And it's in a powdered form and it's in really, really good flavors. That's the difference here, okay? It doesn't taste weird or like tart or like anything like that. It actually tastes really good. So their flavors are chai, chocolate, or caramel, salted caramel. And these are really good. So what I do is I take 2 scoops and I add it to coconut milk in the afternoon. And it is my afternoon pick-me-up. Holy smokes, do I rely on this right now. Mushrooms are great they're partially adaptogenic, first of all. And they're also great for brain health. So helps with things like productivity, reducing procrastination, helping improve memory and focus. And it's much better than having, coffee, donuts, some sort of sugar fix at that like 2-3 p.m. mark. So that's why I love this. I have every single flavor. I make it for me and my husband daily. I add 2 scoops of milk and then I have a little electric frother thing that I use and I like mix them so it becomes super creamy. And this is what I love because I'm, obviously watching my caffeine right now. So if you're like me and you need that pick-me-up, whatever stage of life you're in, I really suggest you try it and use my discount code BiohackingBrittany. It will get you the most off of all of their products. So even if they're doing some sort of like promo, my code will get you a bigger discount, which is why I always try to get people to use it. So definitely check that out. And a shout out to Nuchido. Nuchido is the only NAD supplement that I use and recommend. Couple of reasons why. First of all, it is a woman-founded, women-led company in the biohacking space. And we know how rare that is, okay? If you are familiar with the biohacking space, you look around, it's all older white men, nothing wrong with them, but nice to have some diversity. And so I will always support women in this space. Secondly, their product is phenomenal. So instead of trying to give you precursors to increase NAD, NAD is a molecule that's associated with aging in the body and longevity. Instead of just like trying to give you precursors to increase NAD, what they did was they kind of swam upstream and they took a look at the different processes that are actually associated with reducing NAD in the body. And the ingredients in the supplement are designed to boost those pathways, which then increase NAD naturally. And it's actually been proven. They've done tests before and after. And my gosh, it actually has been shown to improve NAD levels within 1 week of using it. I'm not kidding. 1 week. Okay. So I stand behind them 100%. Everything that they do. Dr. Nicola is brilliant. She's very smart. I've had her on the show twice and I will always support them no matter what. So I take 6 a day. So 3 in the morning, 3 midday to get that like NAD boost that I really, really need. And I want to just focus on like longevity as much as I can. So check that out. Use my discount code BiohackingBrittany. You will get the most off. And Yeah, definitely worth it. Definitely the only NAD, boosting that I'm doing, much more effective than IVs or some other sort of precursor. So enjoy this podcast episode with Ashley. Dr. Ashley, I think you're going to get a lot out of it, and I will catch you soon for another one. Welcome to Biohacking with Brittany. Thank you for tuning in today to another episode. I am so grateful that you are listening. And I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Ashley Dwyer, who is a pharmacist, ACE certified health coach, or ACE certified health coach, I guess, and former NPC athlete. She has a very interesting journey from a traditional medical background to founding her holistic health company, Team BDN Coaching. And we are going to get all into that. She specializes in holistic nutrition, metabolic restoration, individual fitness plans, and really helping women kind of in the similar age group that I help women in, which is about 25 to 45, talking about metabolic adaptation, hormones, PCOS, hypothyroid, all the juicy things that we love to talk about. So, Ashley, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So I love to kick off the show with your personal health journey so people can kind of understand where you're coming from. What kind of took you from, being a pharmacist to then becoming a health coach? Why did that happen?
The short answer and the very simple answer, it kind of fell into my lap. But then the more long drawn out answer is I did struggle with my own type of metabolic and hormone issues, and Western medicine sort of failed me in that aspect. And so it wasn't until I really started diving into functional medicine, holistic health, and lifestyle changes that everything really got better. And, as a pharmacist, I'm standing behind a counter. And I like to say, I'm handing out Band-Aids, and I know medicine is necessary in certain areas, but for a lot of it, we can do a lot with lifestyle changes, and we just don't. So I really wanted to get into, I found a passion for this versus pharmacology, and figured I could help women prevent what I went through. And so that's how we got here.
What was it that you went through and you struggled with?
Well, if anyone's listening or that has been a bodybuilder, competition, bikini athlete, anything like that, I did those when I was young, 22, 23, last show probably at 25, 26. And I just got to a point where I was oh, I love being this tiny. That was back when I was really wanting to shrink myself and be the smallest version of myself, right? And I was eating nothing, doing a ton of fasted cardio, training 7 days a week. It was back when team no rest days was cool, And now we're no, please rest. I was working a busy pharmacy career. I was going out with friends. I really wasn't sleeping. And my body around just age 27 was no, we have had enough. We are done running off of nothing. And so I found myself literally probably drinking a venti Starbucks and then still wanting to pass out narcoleptically at work. It was bad. And at that point I was if I'm not paying attention, I could severely hurt someone as a pharmacist not paying attention, right? I went into the doctor, got a bunch of labs drawn, and literally everything hormonally that could be messed up was crazy. Thyroid in the toilet, hormones completely perimenopause, but not even showing up or registering, high fasted insulin, but super high cortisol, fasted blood sugar. I don't even know how I was standing in the office. It was 59 was my fasting glucose. It was, for all of you listening, that's not good. That's very low. So then I kind of just went through, I did the Western medicine route. They threw me on thyroid meds and went through endocrinologists, and just never, my hair was falling out. I was so tired and it just wasn't working. We went through so many doses of medication, and it wasn't until I finally got to a functional health practitioner, and then honestly, using terms reverse dieting, right? Started eating more, that I started feeling better and was able to kind of get my life back. So that kind of made me really, really want to do the same for women and stop women from crash dieting, doing all these fad, crazy things, because I really understood how it affected your insides, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's I think a lot of people go on that journey of trying to do so much and then, burning out and then trying the medication and then it not working. I'm glad that you were kind of like able to turn it around though and like see that, okay, maybe there's a different way of healing here, like through holistic measures. So, when you started kind of like pivoting, what were kind of the first few things that you started trying that you're like, oh, I'm actually having more success with this?
So I think when I was doing medications, I'll be honest, like this was, they were trying levothyroxine, then they were adding T3, then they were adding all these things. And they were like, well, then we're going to put you on progesterone. So it was this whole gamut of meds at first. And I was like, oh, I do not want to be doing this. And then when it came to lifestyle changes, honestly, eating more carbs because I had to fix my glucose response. I was way too low blood sugar and I was trying to be low carb because, what I thought back then was carbs were bad. And so I had to start eating more carbs and I felt better with more carbs. Slowly, I still was very hesitant about increasing calories. I probably was eating 1,400 and I would get myself up to 1,700 and be like, this is a lot. And I laugh now because I'm at like 2,500 and I'm like, oh my God, if only I would have known back then. So eating more and eating more carbohydrates and then also resting. Like I had to stop training almost to regulate everything. I remember when I was working with one functional health coach type of situation that I was working with, they took my training back from like 5 days a week of an hour to 2 days a week, 30 minutes max. And I was like freaking out, but it made such a difference.
I think that happens a lot. And I've had my own experience with that in different ways of whether you're suddenly increasing how much you're eating or your macros or calories or whatever it is, or reducing how much you're working out. There's this like fear of, oh my gosh, like my body's going to drastically change. Am I going to look like this now? Am I going to put on weight or whatever that is? And it's so hard to kind of let that go. And it's hard because like the benefits can be there, like for sleep and hormones and fertility, even of, it's actually better if you kind of slow down a bit more and eat a bit more food, right? Like, and that's been proven for fertility, especially like that has been proven when women are in like, especially calorie deficits or working out too much, it seriously impacts your menstrual cycle, how much you ovulate and things like that. So for those women listening who maybe have this like tight hold onto everything and are feeling like, no, I have to do this because this is what makes me feel good. And this is how I like to look. And it keeps me this way. But it's having these long-term negative impacts on their health. Like, what do you say to them? How do they kind of start to let go and be okay with maybe softening a bit in those areas?
So I think it's really funny because I'm sitting here like listening and I'm like, you know what? I totally understand why we feel that way. And it's because you're like, even back then, I was doing all the things and doing the most, right? And I still wasn't where I wanted to be health wise. And I was like, but if I don't do these things, I'm definitely not going to be where I want to be health wise, right? So, but it was just like a misunderstanding of how the body actually works. And so even as a pharmacist and going through school and learning the different systems of the body, like you're not putting two and two together of like, oh, stress is like not your friend, like, how it all works. So when I have clients who show up like that, like I will honestly, because you said like, oh, we feel good and we look the way we do, but a lot of the times they don't feel good. Like they're not feeling great, but they're just like making themselves do this stuff because they think they have to, right? So it's just an honest conversation of, are you really feeling good? Like, what are we doing right now that maybe is unnecessary that we read online that we should do, like fast or skip breakfast or fasted cardio or just having to do all these things. And it's like, you really don't have to do those. So just kind of providing just an honest conversation of feelings and then kind of showing, I'm a science nerd, so I like to show some data and have them kind of understand that process. But or just like, I don't like the trust the process. I want them to understand the process because I think they're more likely to then trust in it. Right. And then they can like repeat it back to me why we're doing what we're doing. So I often just go through a whole gamut of education.
Yeah, no, that's great. What do you find is the common like road bumps or speed bumps that those clients go through? Like, what is the pushback maybe that you kind of see like, oh, this is a trend for this typical situation?
Yeah. It comes to like, there's a big one in just the all or nothing thinking. Like, I have to do balls to the wall, this or nothing. And really, there's like a gray area. There's that balance. So I think a lot of women, especially, aren't taught balance because we're told everything is bad and, this is what you should do to do this. So I find that is a huge pushback. And then, of course, it's just fear, like being afraid of the unknown, being afraid to either lose all progress, gain a bunch of weight, just like fear in letting go. We work with a lot of like high functioning women too. So they're very control type A. So oftentimes, speaking of myself, oftentimes letting go is kind of the hardest part.
Yeah, I find that the same for myself and same with people I've worked with. It's just this idea of, it's like control. It's like, it's hard to even like word it in any other way. But I think you're right. Like, I think a lot of them actually deep down don't feel good and aren't happy with their bodies or maybe their mental state or their symptoms or whatever it might be. And then you kind of spiral and you think, okay, I'm actually just going to control more and more and more. And then I will get to it. Right. So then it starts to be like, okay, I'm going to take these supplements and then I'm going to get rid of all the toxins in my house. And then I'm going to like control my sleep environment, which is great. Like those things are healthy and they help. But if it's causing so much like stress almost, or I don't know, like you're becoming obsessed with it, there's like self-care. And then there's just like, whoa, you need to just like take a step back and just like breathe and live right now,
Honestly, I didn't even mention this and I don't know why, which is crazy because it's been so many years removed, I guess. That's kind of how I got with food and exercise and just social activities before, it's orthorexia, right? Just like the obsession of being healthy and eating a certain way. And ironically, like macros got me out of that, but it's that obsession. So like you said, if we are getting to a point where like, if we don't absolutely like meet this, that we're going to freak out, like we've already lost the battle of our results,
Yeah. Yeah. Orthorexia is really tough. Like I don't think I don't know. I don't even know if people like really get diagnosed with it, to be honest. Like I feel like it's something that's pretty still really new, but I remember like dabbling in it and like walking the line of that as well quite a few years ago. And same thing, like just, thinking, oh, I ate this one thing. Now this is all ruined. Very toxic thinking. It took me a while to get out of that. And I think it's interesting that you actually went to macros because macros, like tracking macros is like a very controlled, right? Like you're like, so how did that even make sense? Like how did you find relief in tracking macros from like being at a point of orthorexia?
Yeah. So I talk about this all the time because I love it so much because we do hear online like macros is disordered. And I'm like, actually, it helps with my disorder. But so where I was at that point was when I was competing, my trainer now trainers do macros, but my trainer back then did meal plans. So I was constricted to what was written on this 8x11 piece of paper, right? And it's your stereotypical like egg whites, spinach, like quarter cup oatmeal, 12 almonds, like, So it was a very, very, very strict type of meal plan. It was like a don't eat after this time at bed, can't have fruit at night, only protein, like all these rules. And so this got me thinking if I didn't follow these things, I was going to ruin my progress or I was going to then gain weight because this is what helped me lose the weight. So when it came to macros, I was like, wait, I can eat it any time of day as long as I hit my macros and it's fine. I can eat whatever type of foods as long as it fits my macros. Like I don't have to have protein at bedtime. I can actually have fruit and it won't hurt me. I can actually like sneak or like not sneak, but that's what I thought back then. I was like, Oreos are bad. I can't have cookies. And it's like, no, I can fit them into my day. And then it kind of gave me freedom. So while it was restricting in a sense of like, you have to hit these numbers every day and I had to like weigh and track, as a control freak, I actually enjoyed the little bit of like control it brought to weighing and like the data. But I loved that I could experiment and kind of play Tetris with different ways of thinking about food. And it brought me so much more balance than I had before. And then it kind of taught me how much I needed to eat, protein, all of that. And I was able to then shift into intuitive eating. So yeah.
I love that. What macro formula do you follow now, or are you no longer kind of like doing that?
No, I do macros. I jump into macros now when I'm like trying to hit a goal. And ironically enough, if I don't track sometimes, I undereat, which is like hilarious to me. But what do you, as far as formula, like what do you
like how much fat, protein, carbohydrates, like what's your ideal zone?
So for me, I generally tend to do like 1.1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Like I still am like a leaner figure. So I do more protein and then I do at least 30% fat for hormone health. And then the rest is carbs. Whatever's left over is carbs.
Nice. And how do you even track that? Like, do you just know now from experience that like when you eat this dinner that you've prepared that like likely this is what the ratios are?
If I am intuitively eating, yes. Then I'm usually like, I only really intuitively eat if I'm at maintenance. So if I'm like not really wanting to grow or not really wanting to lose weight, I'm just happy where I am. That is when I will generally intuitively eat and just kind of go about my day. But like for now, I am in a deficit. So I am tracking macros. So, we are plugging and playing.
Nice. And so do you use like an app or a tracker or anything to calculate it? Or like, what's your go-to?
I use Chronometer, and my coaching team, we use Chronometer as a team. So I generally find I like that app better than MyFitnessPal or any of the other ones.
Nice. Okay. I should look into that one. I've only ever used MyFitnessPal, and I just found I was, again, it was like I was becoming too obsessed with everything. So I just stopped. But I'm always open to like other ways of doing it because I think it is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll totally admit macros isn't for everybody, right? And if you do find that you're becoming obsessive about it, then, maybe we do take a step back. Like we find clients who do that as well. But one of the things I'll tell people right out the gate is like, we're not going for zeros here, people. Like we're not trying to be perfect every day. We're trying to get within 10 or 5, right? 5 grams of each and just kind of learn to get close enough. We're not, perfect isn't attainable and it shouldn't be.
Are you feeling drained, struggling with low energy, or noticing that your body just isn't bouncing back like it used to? The culprit might be declining NAD+ levels in your cells. NAD+ is a vital molecule found in every cell of your body. It converts nutrients into energy and activates essential cellular processes. But as we age, our NAD+ levels naturally decline, leading to reduced energy, slower recovery, and overall poor cellular health. Stresses like intense workouts, disrupted sleep, and alcohol can make this decline even worse. But thankfully, there is good news. I love to use Nuchido Time Plus. This is a breakthrough NAD supplement designed to combat these issues. I actually get asked all the time what NAD supplement I use, and this is the one. It is backed by a patented formulation and clinically proven in a double-blinded studies. Nuchido Time Plus targets the root causes of NAD+ decline. It uses advanced science to boost your NAD+ levels, supporting better energy, faster recovery, and enhancing overall health. I have an exclusive offer just for my listeners, and you can use code BiohackingBrittany at checkout to get 10% off of your order. Don't let declining NAD levels hold you back any longer. Elevate your health and unlock your full potential with Nuchido Time Plus. Remember, that's code BiohackingBrittany for 10% off your order. Take charge of your cellular health today. Yeah, I think that's fair. I have found a lot of success with like intuitive eating, kind of like you were talking about. And I'm trying to teach my husband this. Like if you have a plate of food in front of you, I stop eating when I'm full, whereas he will finish the whole plate. And, it drives me crazy that he does that because like I can tell when he's full, right? People kind of slow down, they put their knives and forks down, that type of thing. And I always tell him, I'm like, you don't have to finish the food on your plate. Like even at a restaurant, like it's okay. We can take it home. Like there's other options here. And it's it's really hard to teach people how to intuitively eat who have kind of like turned that off, but there is so much magic there if you tap into that of like, I'm going to eat when I'm hungry. And when I'm not hungry, I'm just like not going to eat. Like, it's okay. It's okay to like not have these like structured meals and like 3 meals a day with 3 snacks in between. Like that, I just feel like that is it's just way too much, way too much. We're just trying to like almost like manipulate the body too much in that way,
I have a question then. Since you work with intuitive eating, do you find that some women, because we experience this in our program, even though we have different ways of doing nutrition, that women just aren't hungry at all? How do you get them to bypass?
Yeah, I mean that's definitely something that has come up. If women aren't as hungry and say they're not eating enough, then we talk about stress and we talk about how much caffeine they're having. And like, let's look outside of just the nutrition, because there are things that decrease appetite that can be significant. Stress being a big one, and also caffeine, like I said. So yeah, it really depends on the person. If the person's under eating and like we're worried about fertility, for example, maybe intuitive eating actually doesn't work, like because they're not eating enough. So maybe we do need to like set kind of a meal plan and have them track their meals and then look at it after a week and be like, okay, did you get enough vegetables and fruit? Like, when did you start eating? When did you stop eating? All of these types of things. So I understand that. But a lot of the time I see it on the other side where women are overeating or trying to structure things too much when really they can just like dial it back a little bit, which can help. Yeah.
I think for us with trying to shift into intuitive eating sometimes is that food is for comfort in a lot of situations. So trying to like turn that switch off and turn on other coping mechanisms, right? Again, this just displays that there's no one plan for everyone. So
exactly. Yeah. And also just like educating people on the difference between a craving and being hungry. Like a craving for sugar is like, oh, I'm tired. I need to pick me up. I want sugar or coffee. Whereas hungry is like, you feel it in your belly. You're like, whoa, I haven't eaten. Like I basically just looking into intuitive eating and really, hunger versus craving.
Oh,
and,
right.
like,
I was going to say that's like the old thing of like, if you're hungry versus if it's a craving, like, will you eat an apple right now? If it doesn't sound good, you're likely not hungry, right? If you're hungry, you'll take that apple because you're hungry.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good question to ask. That's a good one to, especially with like even kids. I feel like that would be
I think the main overlay of this and what I think all of us coaches do in different ways is just kind of bringing self-awareness to habits, right? To your body, how you're feeling, how something makes you feel, if you're hungry, if you're full. Like a lot of people just go through life without paying attention to really anything. or we kind of understand that like maybe if we eat this food, it makes our stomach hurt, but like, let's dive into that. Why do we keep eating it? So just becoming aware of behaviors and all of that. And obviously what self-awareness precedes change. So just like bringing that to attention and then working on the different ways around it. That's like one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's totally spot on. And I can see that obviously in my own practice as well. Something that you also talk about is like metabolic restoration or metabolic adaptation. So what do you mean by that? And like, how do you educate your clients?
I call it metabolic restoration because it's not broken, right? We're not fixing anything. If anything, lower metabolisms, like when women quote unquote say like, I have a slow metabolism. Like if I even look at a cookie, I'll gain weight. And it's like, you likely don't have a slow metabolism. And if you do, it's just adapted. It's not broken. It's not anything. It's actually functioning quite well. Because when you're underfeeding it or overtraining, it's not going to perform its best. It's going to conserve as much energy as possible. Our new metabolic rate is going to come down to a lower set point so that we can survive. I like to think of the metabolism as like a machine that's literally trying to keep you alive. And if you don't give it enough fuel, it's going to turn off certain things or not function as optimally in different areas as it would if we gave it enough fuel. Like you do fertility a lot, right? So I like to tell my clients that sex hormones are a luxury, not a necessity. So if we are under fueling, we are really not giving the body what it needs, it's not going to have adequate sex hormones. So periods are going to go away. Ovulation's not going to happen. Obviously, this is going to make fertility extremely hard. So we generally, if we do work with women who do severely undereat, and we're kind of seeing that from the competitor standpoint, or, where I went through, then we have to just bring it back up to a higher set point. So readapt it per se to that higher set point of where it should be. And so that's when we work on, reverse dieting with clients, or just kind of jumping them right back up to maintenance and sitting consistently. And then we can go into a cut at a much higher set point later if we're, back to feeling good.
Yeah. I love that. I think you're spot on. I actually did a full podcast episode on calories with this expert for this company called Calorify, and they measure how it's the science behind it is like really intense, but basically they can measure specifically how many calories you burn every single day. And we talked about metabolism, and he said, like, as a scientist, there's actually no, like, this idea of your metabolism slowing down as you get older is actually a fallacy. And the science only shows that it only starts to actually decrease in your 60s. And by the time you've hit your mid 20s, you will actually have the same like BMR from your mid 20s until your 60s. But there's obviously things that you can do to like increase it, right? So if you increase your muscle mass, now you're able to actually burn more calories every day. So, and it's a reflection of your lifestyle. But he said, like, people in their 40s or whatever who will say like, oh yeah, it's like, it's not what it was in its 30s. That's actually not true. It's just a reflection of their lifestyle. Maybe they're exercising less. Maybe they are drinking more alcohol, or like, these other decisions that they're making. But the metabolism itself is actually, the baseline is actually the same. And the only time it is actually higher is like when you're a kid and when you're a teenager. So when you are a teenager and you're like eating all this crap and you're not putting on any weight, like that's actually scientifically proven. And then it drops down. But yeah, by your mid 20s, it's kind of set until you're in your 60s.
I love this stuff, and I love geeking out on it and giving the reality of it. But like, that's the unsexy stuff that like nobody wants to hear, right? Like, actually, it's because you don't move anymore that your metabolism is slow, not because you're 40. Yeah.
Exactly. And then like people always like, eat this because it's going to boost your metabolism.
No, oh my gosh.
And like this superfood. And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Like you can't just like eat like acai berry or whatever superfood is cool right now and think, oh, I'm going to lose weight. Like, or green tea. Oh my gosh. People always talk about green tea. Like, we have to kind of zoom out and look at it from a much more holistic, personalized perspective than like just the single food is going to make a difference.
You know what single food group will make a difference? Protein. Eat more protein. It is the most thermogenic macronutrient. You actually do burn more calories digesting it. There's your superfood. Get protein in. It's like super like that. It's that simple scientifically, not acai.
Exactly. But it's like you said, like it's not sexy, right? Like it's not, protein powder is not a superfood. Like people just, I guess like collagen is kind of like had its moment, maybe is one of them, but still like it's, I don't know. A lot of the time, it's like this in health and wellness in general. A lot of the time, the basics are actually what moves the needle the most. But it's like not fun to like sell to people, and it's not very sexy.
One of our clients came in actually on a fat burning collagen. And I was like, what is this? And it had like green tea and raspberry ketones in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, the supplement industry is just, I hate them so much, but they are so capitalizing on just the marketing was genius. And I was like, this is terrible. It's such crap.
Yeah, it's such crap. And it's, my mom always sends me, she gets all these Instagram and Facebook ads of these supplements. She always sends them to me. She's like, oh, should I get this? Says it can like help with stress or help me lose weight. And I'm like, Mom, like, how many times did you exercise this week? Like, let's just talk about like the average basic things that you can do right now versus like, again, you trying to take this supplement and then it not working. And then you wasted your money. You feel discouraged. And like, it's like this whole mental loop as well that you go through.
You nailed it. Yep.
And I just feel so bad because so many people fall into that trap.
You know what's funny is I left pharmacy because I didn't want medication to be Band-Aids, right? And then I get into the health and wellness industry and supplements have become the Band-Aids. And I was like, why do people just like taking things? Like, why wouldn't you rather just eat something? Because everyone wants to eat, right? Like I love eating. I don't know. It's just so crazy how we've just grown towards a society that's like, give me the easier thing to do with less effort to see the results. And obviously that's not working out as a society because our, obesity numbers are not decreasing in any fashion.
If you're feeling out of sync with your hormones or struggling with fertility, I totally get it. I've been there and it can be so frustrating, but I found a delicious way to support your reproductive health. I have developed hormone balancing, fertility boosting chocolate. This isn't just any type of chocolate. It's packed with adaptogens like maca root and antioxidants from cacao and pomegranate. These ingredients can help regulate your hormones and support your preconception health and fertility. You need to download this recipe ASAP, okay? Because it's more than just a treat. It's a powerful way to nourish your body from the inside out. Imagine indulging in a rich, delicious chocolate that not only satisfies your sweet tooth, but also boosts your wellness. Whether you're trying to conceive, balance your hormones, or just crave a healthy indulgence that you get to make from home, where you get to control all of the ingredients and also optimize your health, this recipe is perfect for you. Don't miss out on this tasty, fertility enhancing, optimizing health solution. You can go to biohackingbrittany.com/pages/fertility-chocolate and download the recipe for free right now. Go for it. It's just right there waiting for you. It's linked in my show notes. It's linked on my website. You're going to find it super, super easy. So treat yourself to better health, one delicious bite at a time. Yeah, I've said the exact same thing about the supplements. Is like the quick fix, the quick pill that's going to fix everything can be a pharmaceutical and can be a supplement the way that it's sold to us. And yeah, and then there's this whole idea of like, oh, it's natural, so it must be fine. Like it must work. It must be, effective. But it's like, again, let's get these healthy habits in place before we start adding those types of things in.
I agree.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. I know. It's like, yeah, it's funny how you kind of recognize all that. So, when you're working with women, what are kind of the common hormonal issues that you're seeing these days? I'm curious, is it like PCOS? Is it thyroid? Like what's popping up for you?
Yeah, those are generally two of the big ones we see. Or actually, I will say it's definitely a lower thyroid. We get a lot of Hashimoto's or just generally hypothyroid. And then we get insulin resistance is a big one, whether, it's coupled with PCOS or not. We do have a handful of women, more than a handful of women who have PCOS that we work with. But other than that, it's also the perimenopause, menopause group. Because I know I like to, like my favorite clientele, like you said, is like 25 to 45, but we do get a lot of menopausal women too, which, lack of hormones. So it's just funny how it all comes into play.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just talking to my mother-in-law about this. She went through menopause quite later. So she went through menopause, I think, at 56, and the average age is 51. And we were talking about this, and oh man, so she's doing this diet. Oh gosh, it's like basically like high fat, low carb, I guess average protein. And then one day a week, she has like a full cheat day. And then the other 6 days, she's on this like very regimented, thing, this like very regimented diet to lose weight. And I talked to her about it and I get it. And she's just saying like, after menopause, like weight sits differently on my body. Like, it's around my stomach and my thighs, and it didn't used to be like that. And that's hormonal. And, she's weighing herself all the time. And like, she weighs herself like every single day. And and she talks to me about it. And so we have a very open dialogue about it. And I just try to encourage her, like, it's not how I would recommend you go about it, but she's following this program. And so I don't know, like, what do you kind of see in those menopausal, postmenopausal women who have this issue of like, the fat is sitting differently on my body. I'm going to go to extremes to like now try and lose it.
So I think it's like us, but in general, it just your body's working different, right? So we go to extremes sometimes to want to do things too, but extremes are never the answer because yeah, she might lose it by doing like a modified keto, right? But that doesn't mean she's going to keep it because can she continue eating that way forever? Probably not. So, and I mean, you know that, right? It's always funny how like our family doesn't listen to us. But the thing that helps menopausal women the most, and I get flack for this because honestly, whether you have hormones or you don't, the same principles are going to apply, which is you still need a higher protein diet. You still need to get in protein because even after, I think postmenopausal women and older women, anyone over the age of 65 actually needs more protein to sustain even the muscle mass that they have, right? So you need to continue doing that. We still need movement. What happens in menopause is we don't have estrogen production anymore, right? And estrogen is super great for insulin sensitivity. So if we're losing insulin sensitivity, we're not processing carbs as well. And then we see the more pre-diabetic markers or the higher A1Cs, things like that. And that's where we get more fat storage in our midsection and maybe different parts of our body, love handles, etc. So the same principles still apply with or without estrogen. You still need to move. Like we really need to be moving. We really need to be focused on maintaining or gaining muscle mass. So weight bearing exercises, strength training, because that's also going to ward off like osteopenia and osteoporosis as we get older too. Estrogen production or, going into menopause, not having estrogen is also very protective of our bones. When we lose that, that's a problem for our bones. So it's just the same type of principles, but just maybe packaged differently. So for her, as far as the scale, if it's causing a client a lot of stress to weigh every day, then obviously I don't recommend that. But I do generally recommend clients weigh every single day and understand the fluctuations that are going on with their body instead of letting the scale have so much power over them. Like, okay, I went up a pound today. Why? And it's like, did I eat later? Did I work out yesterday? Salt, water? Have I gone to the bathroom yet? Yada, yada, yada. Or, if I went down a pound, why? And kind of just like bringing that self-awareness to the scale instead of freaking out that it's up half a pound. So, if it's causing stress, we diminish it, but it's kind of going to be the same principles depending on how she's feeling and what's working. I'd change things around a little bit, but it's not, what's crazy? Postmenopausal women can also get away with intermittent fasting easier. So if they wanted to do that, that would be like one of the only times I would recommend it. But
yeah, that's funny. So my recommendations to her was, and I told her, I was like, if I was postmenopausal, this is exactly what I would do. I would intermittent fast every single day because there's no risk on your hormones or your fertility because that like phase of your life is over. Plus you get all of the cellular health and longevity benefits from it. So that's what I would do. I would probably look at bioidentical hormones.
Yeah. I didn't know HRT was an option.
Yeah. And like probably work with like some sort of functional medicine doctor, or I would just like research it and do it myself. And then strength training and like weight lifting. So she does like yoga and she does, like cross country skiing and walking and stuff. And that's great. But I would, and she talks to me, she's like, well, it's body weight. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. But I think you would have better success if you actually started lifting weights, like squat, overhead press, like, get some sort of program. I mean, I'm sure there's a million programs online for postmenopausal women about lifting weights. Okay.
So many.
Like so many. YouTube, like there's so many resources now. And if you can start to increase your muscle mass like that, and which will help you burn more calories every day, help with the metabolism that has now actually gone down a bit, I think you're going to be in a better place. So those were my recommendations, I think. And that's exactly what I do. And then I would also add in like some sort of like sauna program as well, like a few times a week, just because I think it's really good for the nervous system, being in parasympathetic mode, detoxing, cleansing, circulation, all those things.
I love the sauna. I wish I had more access to a sauna. So yes, love that.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard when it's exactly like you said, like the family stuff is tough Cause, I listened to her and she bought into this book that said 6 days on, 1 day cheat day. And she's doing this thing. And I'm just like, I wish you would have just come to me. Like, but everyone's on their own journey. So I don't give unsolicited advice until someone asks me, and then I will tell them.
It's funny. My grandma will like get a new medication from her doctor and she'll Google everything instead of just like asking me. And I'm like, why didn't you just ask me? And she's like, well, you're busy. I'm like, never too like, I tell you this all the time. So it's just funny. And then she scares herself about the medication. And I was like, can we not do this anymore? Like, please just come to me. So, I get it from I don't want to be a bother standpoint, but like, please bother me. That's what we're here for, right? I tell my clients this all the time. Like, please bother me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you have family members who have a certain area of expertise, like I always ask my brothers things if it's like whatever it might be, like something about like accounting or who knows, right? Like that's their area of expertise. Why would I not ask them? So I think it's the same, but obviously your health is so personal. So that maybe it's a little different, but yeah, I'm curious when you work with women, when you talk about lifestyle, like we talked a lot about nutrition and exercise, but when you talk about lifestyle, like what are your recommendations or what do you usually see pop up as an issue? Is it sleep or stress management? And then you're like, oh, okay, like we actually need to kind of like work on this as well.
Oh man, this is like a big one because there's always a ton of lifestyle things depending on the client that we need to shift, but a lot of it is stress management and it's a lot of perceived stress, right? Like I don't blame people either. Our society is so like go, 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 and we're juggling a million things nowadays. And like if you have kids or just your to-do list, like I get it, right? Entrepreneurship's not cake either. So, and I don't even have children or anything like that yet. So it's more just like the inability of slowing down and getting into parasympathetic states, right? So having to somehow figure out how to incorporate that into day to day. It's a lot of mindset shifting. It's a lot of, I don't have time shifting into like, let's figure out where you do have the time. Like you actually do. Like this is how we incorporate more steps into the day. This is where we kind of get out of our own way in that aspect. So it's a lot of mental reframing and mental shifting. But then the lifestyle stuff is just how to prep food or set yourself up for success instead of like going through a drive-through, or how to do meals that your kids will like also without like cooking 5 different things for your entire family. So it's just more like meeting them where they're at with their current struggle. But again, like we said earlier, it's the biggest dial movers that we do for every client. So just like getting their nutrition on board, steps, exercise, sleep, stress management, those are the big ones that we work on in different facets and different areas with each client, depending on where they need it or what we see is going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. The time one is a big one. It's a really big one of like, I don't have time to meal prep. I don't have time to work out every day. And there's so many arguments for this. And it's such I don't want to say it's a cop out, but it kind of can be a cop out. I think that if your values are aligned and like if your values are health and self-care and self-preservation so that like you can fill your own cup so then you can pour into everybody around you. And like we talk about self-love and self-care, then you make the time for it, right? And even like with me lately, I've just been like scrolling on social media way too much and I've been so busy. And then I think like, okay, what could I cut out? Oh yeah, obviously all that scrolling because I need to make time to work out. And so, you know what I mean? It's like some things do have to be sacrificed, as stupid as it sounds, of like scrolling on Instagram. But there are things that can be sacrificed or cut out so that you can actually make time for it. It's, I don't know. It's just about getting back into the habit of doing it. Once you're in the habit of it, it's a lot easier. But it's hard to like make that first step again, like back into the gym,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. That's why when people are like, oh, I hate starting over. I'm like, starting over is the hardest part. Just don't stop. And then you won't have to start over.
It's exactly it. Like when it becomes a non-negotiable, like when am I working out today? Not am I working out today? Then it's like, It's easy. But man, when you fall off the train or the horse for a month or more, like it's coming back. You're like, holy.
Yep, agree. Even if you are like established or this is your routine, like am I somehow let my fridge go kind of bare and I like don't have food right now. And I'm like, dang it, I need to go grocery shopping ASAP. But I'm even like, I did not set myself up great this week. But, I'm not worried about going through a drive-through or anything like that. But even if you just don't go grocery shopping, it kind of sets you back a little bit. And you're like, it's just interesting. But I feel like everybody is busy now. Like, have you ever talked to someone who's just like, no, I'm not busy at all. I have all the time in the world, right? No, absolutely not. So when we use the excuse of like, I'm busy, it's like, okay, everyone is busy, but how is this person doing it? And I totally don't like we all have the same 24 hours in a day, because we don't. It's very much distributed differently, but there is a way to prioritize your health and well-being into your day. Like you said, the oxygen mask goes on you first type of thing. So you could fill other people's cups and do that. So there needs to be that type of setup, because I don't care, pharmacy was not a healthy job, by the way. Like, you barely had time to eat, drink water, go to the bathroom. And it's like, you're essentially blaming your job for your unhealthiness, and that job does not care about you, right? So how do we not let other things be the excuse of why our health is poor? And that's also like a mental reframing that we go through with some people. It's all very fascinating. I could talk all day on this stuff.
If there's one mineral you should be worried about not getting enough of, it's magnesium. Magnesium is the body's master mineral. It's powerful, and it's involved in over 600 critical reactions, including hormone balance, stress management, sleep quality. Even digestion is influenced by the presence of magnesium. But there are two big problems here. One, magnesium has been largely missing from U.S. soil since the 1950s, which explains why it's estimated that up to 75% of the population may be deficient. And two, most supplements contain only 1 or 2 forms of magnesium, when in reality, your body needs 7. The only magnesium supplement on the market that has the full spectrum of all 7 forms is called Magnesium Breakthrough by Bioptimizers. This is my favorite. I've been taking it for over 2 years. That's why I'm so excited to tell you that I was able to arrange a killer deal for you for this summer. You won't find this deal on Amazon or even on the company's own website. This deal is exclusively for my audience, and it's for a very, very limited time and only while supplies last. So right now you can actually get a bottle of Magnesium Breakthrough for free. Like, actually, you get it for free. I'm not kidding. So go now to my website that they made for me, which is magbreakthrough.com/biohackingbrittany and get your bottle of Magnesium Breakthrough for free today. Again, that's magbreakthrough.com/biohackingbrittany and you get it for free. So go now. It's linked in my show notes of this episode, and it's linked on my website, so you can find it really easily, or just DM me and I will send it to you as well. All of us should be on magnesium, and this is my absolute favorite one to take. What do you say to the women out there who are maybe new moms, or maybe they have multiple kids at home, whether they're a stay-at-home mom or they're a working mom in an office? I think all moms are working, like whether it's with kids or with like a, I don't know, just sit down job, whatever you want to call it. What do you say to those women who think, holy smokes, I don't have the time to work out. I can't even finish a cup of coffee without being bothered,
Yeah. So honestly, in that realm, depending on what it looks like, is more of a do what you can when you can. Like, maybe it doesn't need to be a whole hour structured workout, but it could be like squats for 30 seconds in between something else, right? It could be going for a walk with the kids. It could just be breaking up your different movements and workouts throughout the day. Like I was saying, push-ups here, squats there. There's just so many different ways we could look at. I'll actually go through like a schedule audit with some of our clients and be like, okay, when do you wake up? When do you go to bed? What's everything in between? and we'll kind of carve out time, or we find that like, okay, we can get up a half hour earlier than what we're doing now and make that our time before the day, kind of like before shit hits the fan, you know? Because I think it's important for moms to have time for themselves too. So kind of creating and carving out that little bit of time. So it's mostly a schedule audit. So we'll find the time. And if there literally is no time, then we'll kind of like break up certain things, see if we can get some more support coming in, again, patient specific, client specific, but
yeah, I love that. And there are actually a lot of resources out there. And I know this because I'm pregnant and like I have my first baby coming very soon. And yeah, and I'm on the wait list for these like mommy and me fitness classes. And even when I was signing up for them, I was like, I don't even care what type of workout this is. Like, I'm just going to go because A, it's going to get me out of the house. And B, they let you bring your kid with you. So my baby can just like sit in its car seat or whatever it's going to be in while I work out. And there's other moms there with their babies. I don't care if it's yoga or strength training, like I would do both, but this is going to help me mentally and physically feel better. And it was same actually when we bought our Peloton a couple of years ago. I was like, I want to buy it was COVID, whatever. So it made sense. But I was like, I also want to buy this because I know that one day when I have a kid, I'm going to want to be able to work out and I can jump on this Peloton and put the baby right beside me and work out from home and make this a priority. So there are ways to do it. Like, you can go for a walk, mommy groups, fitness classes, online apps, whatever it is. You just got to find what actually you like and then just like stick to it and make it a priority somehow. Maybe you seek help. Maybe you ask your partner if you have a partner and say like, hey, like, this is really important for me and my mental health. Like, I would love for you to be able to like watch the baby from this time to this time so that I can have my mommy alone time,
I think I will say, when women want to know like what's the best menopause treatment or the best plan for menopause or the best plan for postpartum or the best everything post something, right? Is like my best advice is to start before that happens. So if our clients that we work on through conceiving and fertility, establishing these healthy habits before you get pregnant makes it so much easier to go back to them or keep up with them while you're pregnant and after pregnancy. So if fitness is already kind of a part of your life, you're going to want to fit that in or find a way postpartum, right? Or post-menopause, it'll make it much easier to go through menopause if we already have some established muscle mass and established eating habits before menopause. So, is this your first child? Yeah. So you're establishing all of these amazing habits and lifestyle changes before baby. And then you have your one baby that you're going to get into this lifestyle with you. It's hard. It's going to be tough, I'm sure, but it's probably easier than starting with like 3 toddlers right off the gate. Right. So just kind of setting yourself up beforehand, before this all happens is probably it's just the best piece of advice to offer women who are kind of like in those positions or have that, I would say, luxury to do it beforehand. Right. But I love that you've already set yourself up for all of that and you're already in groups. So excited.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about being like proactive and preventative. I think that's like a lot of what biohacking is and holistic health is like, yeah, sure. Like, let me heal what I'm going through right now. Okay, now I feel better. Okay, great. I don't ever want to feel bad again. What can I do to prevent something coming down the line? And so it's again, like, how do I set myself up for success this year, next year, in perimenopause, however many years that is from now? Like, how do I, thinking long term rather than, just dealing with it now. And that's honestly what most disease is. Even like when disease shows up in the body, like cancer's actually been developing in the body for like 10 years, and now it's only detected. So if you start to think about things like that, it's like, okay, so actually what I do right now really matters for like serious chronic diseases and issues coming much later in my life.
Yeah, I would love to get everybody in a reframe of being proactive and being preventative because, unfortunately, most don't understand until they're sitting in that doctor's office with the diagnosis, myself included. I just happen to be 27 and like lucky I got it in time, right? But if we had that notion moving forward, I think we'd all be in much better spots. I think that's what we're doing. We need more. We need more of us.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay. So if women want to work with you or reach out to you and connect with you, where can they do that and how can they find you?
Of course. The best spot is Instagram. It's going to be at dr.dwyer. Slide up in my DMs. Oh, you'll get me. We'll talk. We can chat if you have any questions. And then if you want to check out our team coaching website, it is teambdn.com. B as in boy, D as in dog, N as in nutrition. Teambdncoaching.com, excuse me. And then you'll find out like all the information. You can apply all of that on there.
Amazing. Awesome. I'm going to link that in the show notes and on the website so women can find you easily and hopefully get some success and work with you. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was a great discussion and I really appreciate your time.
I was going to say, Britt, I feel like we could talk all day. Glad we have to cut it at an hour.
I was thinking so much. Thanks for listening to another episode of Biohacking with Brittany. If you're interested in finding the show notes or the sponsors for this episode, you can do so on my website, which is biohackingbrittany.com. Remember to follow me on Instagram where I'm most active. My handle is @biohackingbrittany. And if you're interested in working together and you want to email me directly, you can do that. My email is info@biohackingbrittany.com. And I look forward to hearing from you and having you tune in next week.